Welcome back to Chamber Exchange, the TV show. I want to thank Bank Hometown for being our sponsor and helping make the show happen. I'm pleased to have with us in our second segment Claudia Russo, who's the principal, and Giovanni Blue, who is the business development and workplace at Workplace Resource, for being with us to talk about Workplace Resource. So, Claudia, you are the founder and owner. So maybe you could just talk a little bit about how the company started.
Well, I've been doing this 42 years. And I was a graduate of Clark University, and I needed a job. And there were no women in sales. So I went to Shrewsbury Street, and there happened to be a company called Economy Desk in 1983. And I was hired for $9,000 a year. And I started to look at the corporate headquarters in Boston, where it was all men working, and they were making $250,000 a year. And I read this book called Games Mother Never Taught You. And I started to call around, and there was a company in the Denholm building that very graciously hired me after calling them for 6 months.
Wow.
And I stayed with that company. They went bankrupt, things changed, and in '96 we merged. And finally I said, well, I think it's time to make a change. I really wasn't aligned with the new owners. I was the only woman in management. At the time, I was doing an international adoption, so I couldn't make a change because that would blow it up. So I stayed for about 3 years, and then in 2000, I said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to open my own company. And I saved all my money. I went and did a business plan, and from there, I opened Workplace in a little room on Shrewsbury Street. And from there, it grew. I was on Grove Street for about 5-6 years. And in 2006, I bought the company. I bought a building on Prescott Street. Mm-hmm. There was a shell, and I renovated it. And that's where we are today. Our offices are upstairs, and our warehouse is downstairs. And since then, we've done big projects, small projects. We're on the state contract, OFF 38. We are federally certified also. And we are a group of 8. And between us, we have like 100 years experience. And we do big projects, small projects. People often, with office furniture, they think, I'm going to open a catalog and buy something.
Right.
That's not what we do.
Right.
That's not what we do.
So maybe, Giovanni, you could talk about what you do. I mean, and we'll come back in a moment with Claudia about kind of how the business has evolved over the time that you've been there. But how do you go in and work with a company?
So when we work with a company, we're called a dealer. What a dealer means is we deal with things behind the scenes. There's a lot of things behind the scenes a lot of people don't see. When people buy furniture from us, they think we're just taking a truck, dropping it off, and that's the end of the day, but it's not. There's a lot of complications. For example, we have utility companies we have to deal with. The utility company doesn't want to put power into a building, our game plan changes. So we have to go back to the drawing board and basically reinvent the wheel. If we have another problem such as manufacturing and shipping problems, we put furniture on a truck and it comes in damaged. We have to deal with stuff like that. So there's much more stuff that we have to deal with than people actually see.
So if you start from the beginning, I have an office, or moving into an office or starting a business, or look, we recognize the furniture here is 50 years old, it's time for an upgrade. How do you start? How do you engage from the beginning?
Part of it is too, it's not so much the products, that's stuff.
Yeah.
We have 2 designers, both of which have been doing this 20 years. We want to talk to you about what your goals are, what you want to see this space do for your business or for your school or whatever. It's very important to program before you buy anything. We just had a professor from WPI call us. We do a lot of work with WPI. And he called us because he saw something on the internet and he wanted it. And I said to him, do you know what this product is going to accomplish for you? He's like, oh, I never thought of that. I said, well, you can call Michelle. She's our designer. She'll sit with you and she'll go over it, make sure it, let's face it, make sure it fits in the space.
Right.
Because he was buying 4 of these humongous benches, work benches that were $4,000 each. I said, and plus, they might be something a little less money that you want to, buy. And right away he called Michelle and said, can you get here? Because you need to think about how you're using the space, not about what you're buying. And we just had a situation with a client that they had a design firm out of Philadelphia who specified all this very expensive product. It was probably going to be about $1.5 million. And I said to them, let me look at what they specified. Let me see what we can do with the same exact end result, and it's less money, and it came out to about 900,000. I mean, you know, you have to think about what you're doing. The
Right.
product is only stuff. I mean, it's not going to accomplish what you want it to accomplish unless you planned beforehand.
Right, right. So Giovanni, you mentioned kind of dealing with stuff. So I assume part of it is once, you know, a company works with a design team and they kind of figure out, okay, here's what I'm looking for. You interface with the various manufacturers and kind of deliver the orders, make sure they're in, the measurements, all that stuff.
Yeah, as part of all account coordinated, we do all the behind the scenes work. We make sure it gets there delivered properly, make sure it's installed properly, but then we follow up to see, make sure that the furniture is being used in the way it was intended to from the beginning. Is there any problems with this furniture? Do we need to make any modifications? Do you need some additional information from us? And that goes into us consulting. We don't just sell you stuff, we consult. We consult and make sure that your need is being satisfied in the end. And if it's not, well, we go back to the drawing board and we make sure that we're getting you what you requested from the get-go.
And we also have a project manager who's always on site. Chad is our project manager. He's been in the industry for over 10 years. He goes right to the there's always a problem. He goes to the installation, he works with the clients, he works with his installers and makes sure everything is going to go as planned, and then he comes back with a punch list. We're also a Technion dealer. In our world, you have to have a major manufacturer, whether it's Steelcase, Herman Miller, Hayworth, Technion. You have to have one of those because otherwise you don't really have anything to sell that is sort of a broad spectrum. Those manufacturers have everything from panel systems to soft seating to chairs. They can, you know, cover a wide range of the project. Walls are a big part of our
So
industry.
panel system, is that like cubicles?
Yeah,
Or is
nobody
that the
buys those anymore.
Okay, all right.
I
But
mean, but they're cubicles.
Yeah, and then you said walls now. Right?
Walls, floor-to-ceiling walls are a big part of our industry right now, mainly because it takes away a lot of the work in a construction project. We're working on a project in Michigan where our client is locally in Shrewsbury, but they have a project in Michigan that is in the middle of nowhere. And I'm sure they got a lot of, you know, credits for that. And we're doing walls there because they can't even find a construction company to come in and help them with the project. So walls is a big part of our industry now.
Yeah, and you know, I mentioned you mentioned how you started coming right out of Clark, so I guess you kind of started that trend of Clark students staying here after they graduate, which we're seeing more and more of, which is great. How's the industry evolved from when you started to today, and technology impacting it?
Well, when I started in '83, we used to send orders. We used to write them out on 4 parts and mail them in.
Yeah.
And I remember when we got the first fax machine, it was like, oh my God. It's really evolved. And also what clients want. And remember, now we're combining different age groups. We have baby boomers working with Gen X, working with millennials. That's a challenge for us too.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you know, we did a project, we started 6 years ago with Hanover with the cafeteria. And God forbid we had actually done today what we did back then. They would have had to redo it. I mean, the end result was sort of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's a very, you know, gracious space where people come and sit, and you know, the pandemic had a lot to do with it too.
Right.
You know, people don't want to go back to work 100%.
Right.
And we
More
deal with that
flexible.
too.
Right. Yeah, that's flex space. Probably more offices looking for that flex space.
A lot of lockers.
rather than set space.
A lot of lockers.
Lockers, huh?
Well, because people are coming in 3 days a week, they want a place to put their stuff. So lockers are a big thing now. We've done a lot with DDS, where the state is trying to reduce their footprint by 50%.
DDS, Department of Developmental Services?
Yes.
Yep, state agency, yep.
Yeah, and the state is trying to reduce their footprint, real estate footprint. And that's what they're doing. They're doing hoteling. It's called hoteling. So you'll have a small space you come into, you sign in, you go to your locker, you put your stuff there, and you work at a computer.
Always changing. So if someone's interested in kind of seeing some of the work, their website, how do they get in touch, learn about the full scope of services online?
We have a showroom as well. We invite
Okay.
anybody who's interested in business with us to come see our showroom. It's beautiful. It's our home. You know what they say in Spanish, su casa es mi casa, or mi casa su casa.
Yeah,
I'm sorry
yeah.
about that. Your house is my house. And we invite people to come in all the time and say, hey, listen, this is where we live at. This is a space that we developed, and we can develop a space that's intuitive to what you want, just like ours. And we also have information online, but feel free to reach out to me as well. I would love to speak to anybody that wants to talk to us about our furniture.
And Giovanni, if they want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
You can go online, or you can call my cell phone number at 860-513-8404.
And speaking of that, we got someone calling as we speak. The website is WPRLTD.com. And before we go, prediction this weekend, we got a big football game here locally. You got the Merrimack College Warriors coming into Holy Cross to play the defending champions here locally. Former Merrimack football player, I guess I know who you're going to be rooting for.
I'm going to root for Merrimack. I mean, Merrimack, they got a good team going on at Merrimack. Great team, great guys as well, great coaching. Would love to see them pull it out and get a win.
Yeah, well, if you're interested in a good football game this weekend, get up to Fitton Field. Holy Cross is hosting the Merrimack College Warriors. So thanks for being with us in this segment. And,
thanks for having us.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yep.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, come back. We're going to have our final segment, Chamber Exchange.
These days, you've got your hands full in life. That's why we help you bank simply and securely with tools like Face ID and Touch ID. It's why we make it easy to make purchases on the go and get cash back while you're at it. Why we help you quickly deposit checks wherever you are. And it's why we lend a hand with sending and receiving money right from your phone. So even when you're on the move, you can manage your finances. Bank Hometown. Unlock your potential.
This is Radio Worcester. Local talk, local news, local events. We got it, and we've got opinions that you're going to want to hear.
That Worcester will be thought of and spoken about.
We're live every morning, 6 to 10 a.m., and if you can't catch us then, you can find us online, day and night, at radioworcester.com. This is your town. This is your morning show. Talk of the Commonwealth with Hank and Ben.